This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
All right, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and as always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. All right, here's what we got going on today. Andrew Luck finally threw a football today, believe it or not. All right, we'll be talking about that for the first segment. We got the Toronto Raptors hiring their new head coach, a team assistant, coaching assistant that they brought in. I had some thoughts on it, so we'll talk about that in the second segment. Third segment, we got Josh Gordon saying that the Browns have the best wide receiver corps in the league. I'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the other top wide receiver corps in the league also. And then for the fourth segment, as we always do, we will be talking about anything else going on in the world of sports. All right. So let's get into it. Andrew Luck has not thrown a football since 2016, I feel. Okay? And it seems like the world is on fire now that he's finally thrown today. All right. Threw in front of the media for the first time in a couple of years, and now it's just a point where is he going to be ready for training camp? Okay? And we'll get into all of that, but, well, I mean, actually, you did have Jim Irsay saying that Luck will be at training camp with no limitations. Okay, so I guess that's a plus there. And, I mean, looking at this Colts team, they're really bad. Okay, there's no real talent there. Meaning, like, you do have maybe a couple, like, you got your T.Y. Hiltons and all that, guys in different spots, whatnot, but there's no true collective talent. It's all bits and pieces there. Okay. There's no real, like, solid, I'd say, how do you say, unit on this team. Okay. And obviously, like I said, I mean, we've seen this with the Colts for years. They've never really done well to draft. They've never really done much in free agency, and they've never really done much to put solid players around their quarterbacks, meaning Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck. All right, and I think that's one of the reasons why Andrew Luck has been gone for so long, because the fact is he never had an offensive line to help block for him. All right, and he just never had any real, like I said, there's no real talent around him. And the same with Peyton Manning. Like I said, of course you have your T.Y. Hiltons, you got your Marvin Harrisons and all with Peyton and Andrew Luck, but there's no real collective talent there. Okay? And one thing that's kind of concerning to me about Luck is that we're making a lot, like a big deal about him throwing a football. Okay? Isn't that a bit, like, isn't that weird? I understand that he's been gone for a couple years and whatnot, but the fact, like, it's such a big deal, I mean, I don't know. There's something off about it to me, okay? And I've always been a big Andrew Luck defender, meaning I've always thought that he'd come back and play well. But it's just the point where we're making such a big deal about a guy throwing a football, okay? And I mean, quarterbacks and shoulder injuries tend to not go together, obviously, that we've seen. I mean, isn't it, like, a little concerning about Andrew Luck? Are we expecting him, like, that's the thing right there, expectations, okay? What are we expecting Luck to come out and do? Are we expecting him to come out and be a top 5 quarterback? Are we expecting him to come out and just be a mid-tier quarterback? Or are we just waiting and seeing? Okay? I'm not entirely sure yet. I figured that once Andrew Luck, like if he was 100%, he came back, he'd be fine. But there's the point of when you haven't thrown in a couple years, okay? That's obviously a problem. And I think that Andrew Luck, when like it's obviously a shoulder injury that he's been dealing with, and he's had plenty of setbacks during the time he sustained the injury to now. Okay, from I think it was last year when they took him off of IR. They throw him out there to practice and stuff. He's throwing the ball around, and his shoulder's still feeling discomfort, so he has to go to Germany or whatever and get that little Kobe Bryant treatment or whatnot. Okay, that's concerning. He's had plenty of like a few setbacks so far in his rehab process. Okay, and when you got Jim Irsay saying that, yeah, he's going to be at training camp with no limitations, like how much can we trust that? All right. And I'm not mostly basing this off of just like Jim Irsay and anything like that. It's just the Colts are paying Andrew Luck a lot of money. Okay. I think he's got like the third or fourth highest guaranteed money in the league. All right. The Colts know and the fans know that their team will be hot garbage if Andrew Luck is not out there playing at 100%. Because fact of the matter is, you could throw Jacoby Brissett out there, you could throw Alex Smith out there. That team is not built to win. You need a all-time great quarterback. Okay? And I'm not saying that Luck is all-time great yet, but he did have those all-time great qualities. All right? The guy, like as soon as he came into the league, the Colts were a very good team. All right? He elevated them to being a good team. Okay? And like I said, going back to like Irsay's comments about him being at training camp with no limitations, don't you just kind of have to say that? Don't you have to bring up the hope of this team or of Andrew Luck that he's going to be ready? Because if not, there's no real incentive to watch the Colts, is there? The Colts are a team where, like I said, there's no talent, and if you don't got Andrew Luck out there at 100% playing the way he used to, then you really don't. You're going to be with having the first pick in the draft. All right? And I don't know. It's not like a bad thing, I guess, getting the first pick in the draft, obviously. But nonetheless, I mean, looking at it, I'm not really sure what to think of the Colts. Okay? I mean, it's all just confusion, questions up in the air. All right? And as far as, like, let's head over to fantasy football real quick. Okay? I was talking with Tate before I started recording today's show, and we were talking. I brought up the idea of, isn't it a little concerning that Luck, like so much is being made about him throwing a football, right? And then brings it up, talking about fantasy football. I mean, would you take Luck? Would you draft Luck first, or would you draft a guy like Alex Smith? Okay. Honestly, that's a legitimate question there. All right, and I told him I'd probably go with Alex Smith. You're not really sure what you're going to get out of Luck. Okay? You're not sure how healthy he truly is right now. All he's doing is throwing a football. That's it. He's not practicing or anything like that. He's just throwing passes. Okay? And like I said, it's just kind of at the point where it's like, isn't this a little weird? Yeah, we're making so much of it. Okay? And, I mean, as far as it goes, Andrew Luck could be healthy right now, and he could be feeling fine and whatnot. But there's also a point where, like I said, you've taken about a year and a half off. And how do we know that he's going to come back and be as good as he was? All right. I mean, let's look at the team that he had back when he went to the AFC Championship against the Patriots. Okay. Would you say that this team is better than that one? I don't think I would. If anything, I think this team is maybe considerably worse. Okay? And like I said, it's all just a point of how much Luck's going to be able to elevate the guys around him. And I'm not sure if he's going to have that ability, okay? Coming off of a shoulder injury, well, any shoulder injury for any quarterback is going to be a problem. All right? I remember when Jameis hurt his shoulder last season, I said that the Bucs needed to just shut him down for the rest of the season. All right? Or shut him down until there's no pain whatsoever. There's no point in toughing out a shoulder injury as a quarterback, especially on your throwing shoulder. All right? because that's just going to make it worse. There's not too many guys who have came back from a shoulder injury and been the same. I think Drew Brees is one of the few, right? It was a shoulder injury. That's why the Chargers got rid of him, I believe. Okay. But other than that, off the top of my head, I mean, I can't think of anyone. All right. Drew Brees is the only one that really comes to mind. And, I mean, Drew Brees' injury was career-threatening. All right. But, of course, he made it back, won a Super Bowl with the Saints and all. And it's just with the Colts, I hope that they aren't trying to put too much on Andrew Luck's plate. Okay, because fact of the matter is, they still don't have a running back. Okay, and let's take a look at the Colts roster and see exactly what this team is working with. Okay, and like I said, it's not great. I'd say that. Okay, so they did go and get him some offensive line help, but nonetheless, let's look at it right here. So running backs, I mean, Marlon Mack is probably going to be the starter for this team this season. He did show flashes, but it's just the guy's not established. All right, looking at the receivers, you got T.Y. You brought in Ryan Grant, but he hasn't really done too much. All right, and there's no real. It's a tight end. You got Jack Doyle, who I think is going to be very good. All right, like I said, they drafted Quentin Nelson to be the starting guard for this team. Let's see, on defense, there's not much, all right? This team is not very good, okay? And I think that the Colts and their fans could be in for a rude awakening once Luck gets back there, because I'm sure they're going to be expecting a very good Andrew Luck, probably the Andrew Luck that they last saw, but I don't think it's going to be that way. I think, like I said, it's a little bit concerning that so much is being made about the guy throwing a football. So we'll see what ends up going down, but nonetheless, we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Raptors. They hired coaching assistant Nick Nurse to be their new head coach. I'll be giving my thoughts on that, so stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We spent that first segment talking about Andrew Luck, and we will now talk about the Toronto Raptors. All right, this season, Toronto Raptors were led by head coach Dwayne Casey, the coach of the year, okay? Finished as the number 1 seed in the East, and at least from what they showed us in the regular season, they did look like the best team in the East, okay? Played well in the first round against the Wizards, beat them in 6 games, and had many of us thinking that they could beat the Cavs this time, me included. Obviously, that was not the case, okay? That was nowhere near the case. They had no shot whatsoever. They get swept, and it's all bad after that, okay? They decide to fire Dwayne Casey, which I still don't agree with, okay? And I don't agree with it because the fact is, Casey's a very good coach, probably a top 7 coach in this league, I'd say. All right, let's look at it, actually. Let's see where exactly I'd have Casey ranking. All right, so let's say Stevens and Pop are top 2. Okay. Let's see. I'll take Casey over Brett Brown. Let's see, looking at the divisions. I'll take Spoelstra over Casey. Okay. I will take Kerr over Casey, but Kerr, I don't know. I'm kind of I mean, you do got KD, Steph, and Clay. But, of course, he did win without KD. I don't know. I'll put Kerr in front of him, though, so that's already 4 coaches. Okay. Let's see. I will take, like I said, Pop. Yeah, I think I'd say, and Quinn Snyder. So I'd say Casey's about the 6th best coach in the league, maybe the 7th. So he's in that range. Okay. And the Raptors felt the need to fire him, and I feel like the Raptors fired him more so because of fan pressure more than anything. Okay, because obviously when you're losing to LeBron year after year, the fans aren't really going to take too nicely to it. Okay. But I think that the fans' anger was more so misconstrued and pretty much aimed at the wrong person. All right? It shouldn't have been Casey who was getting the heat. It should have been DeMar DeRozan. All right? As much as the coaches get heat, I mean, if you pay attention to this postseason, DeRozan was terrible. Okay? He was basically useless, honestly. Looked like Kyle Lowry the last few years in the playoffs. Kyle Lowry actually played well. All right? And it's just, like I said, I think that the problem with the Raptors is more so that they're trying to win in the postseason with DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, and that's just simply not enough. Okay? I don't think it's enough at all. I understand that they got a lot of solid young developing players, but there's a point where that's still not good enough. Okay, I don't think anyone really considers DeMar DeRozan as a superstar in the league. Okay, and if you think about it, I mean, have the Wizards ever had the best player in a series? Okay. Looking at round 1, I mean, John Wall, I'd say, is a better player than DeMar DeRozan. He's better than Kyle Lowry. Obviously, you're not going to have anyone better than LeBron. Okay? And looking at the Celtics, I mean, is DeMar DeRozan better than anyone, better than Kyrie on that team? No. All right. Philly, Joel Embiid would be the best player in that series. Maybe a series against Indiana where you got Victor Oladipo, or maybe DeMar DeRozan's the best player there on that series. All right, Milwaukee, Giannis would be the best player. So, I mean, as far as the true contending teams, true teams who make the playoffs and all, Raptors only got the best player in the series maybe a couple of times, if that. Okay? Obviously, in the NBA, we've learned that the team with the best player in the series most likely is going to win. All right? And the Raptors have never had that. And it's tough for the Raptors to go out and get someone else because no one wants to play in Toronto. Okay? Vince Carter left. McGrady left. Lowry was traded there, I believe. DeMar DeRozan got drafted there. And it's just a point where, like I said, just no one wants to play there. And then when you got a guy like Dwayne Casey going over to be your coach and you're getting better year after year, obviously that's saying something. Okay? And then you fire the guy because of fan pressure. I don't get it. I don't buy it. All right? And then they bring in Nick Nurse, all right, the Raptors coaching assistant, to be the new head coach. Can we definitively say that Nurse is a better coach than Dwayne Casey? That the Raptors ended up with the better coach here? I don't think we can. All right? And I don't think we will. And like I said, I think the Raptors are just more so trying to hide what's really going wrong. And like I said, it's the players. Okay? That's all it is. The Raptors just might be the Atlanta Hawks back when they had Teague Horford and all that. I mean, the Hawks finished as the number 1 seed one year. Like I said, did they ever have the best player in a series? I wouldn't say so. Okay. The Raptors are, I guess, a team that's built for the regular season, but somehow when the playoffs get here, it's a whole different ballgame for them. And I'm not really sure. Actually, I think I am sure, and it's just that Lowry and DeRozan just might be B-tier players, second-tier players. Okay? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the team hasn't done well enough to add a superstar there. All right? And obviously, like I said, there's not too many free agents lining up to go play in Toronto, so I think that they do have enough solid young assets and pieces to go out and maybe trade for a guy. Okay? Kick the tires on Kawhi Leonard. See what you can get for him, possibly. All right? Obviously, it's most likely never going to happen, but nonetheless, just go out and look. Okay? Toronto has done well to draft and all, but it's a point where you need that superstar on your team, and they don't have that. Okay? DeMar DeRozan's a great player, but is he a superstar level player? I don't think so. We don't talk about him enough, I'd say. All right? And maybe that's just the point where he's playing in Toronto. People don't really pay attention over there, or pay attention to the team over there. Okay? So like I said, I mean, the Raptors hired their new head coach, Nick Nurse. But like I said, I'm not sure that they ended up with a better coach besides Dwayne Casey. And, I mean, you fired Casey about a few weeks ago. And it took this long to just name a guy who already works for you as your head coach. It seems that, to me at least, that the Raptors saw that they had no real options, no better options. Okay, who else is out there? And I'm curious as to why Dave Fizdale hasn't gotten a job yet. Okay. Never mind. I completely drew a blank. They got picked up by the Knicks. Yeah, I don't know. I completely drew a blank there. But yeah, Fizdale got picked up by the Knicks. I'm curious to see what the Knicks look like with Fizdale. I think Fizdale's a good coach. I think the Knicks are overrated franchise. I think they always have been. I mean, they've only won, one title, and that was back in 75. Okay. What was it? Willie Reed, his name was. I think that was a little overhyped there. All right, but nonetheless, I mean, we'll see what Fizdale ends up doing with the Knicks. But like I said, I mean, I think it was just the point where the Raptors saw, yeah, we have no better options. There's no one out there better than Casey. Let's just hire a guy from within. Okay, and if they would have hired Nick Nurse a lot sooner, then maybe I would have been a little bit more for the move. Okay. But there's a point where you wait a few weeks, you don't have any options, then you bring a guy from the inside. It didn't seem like that was their first option. Okay. So we'll see what ends up happening with the Raptors next year. And I mean, if you look at it, what do we expect them to do? Boston's going to be a better team. They're going to be better than the Raptors, that's for sure. Philly's already better than the Raptors, I'd say. All right. And I mean, the Raptors could be the third best team in the East. Possibly. If you're looking at it. I mean, I'm curious to see what Casey does with the Pistons. I think he's got a few tricks up his sleeve there. I think Miami could be better this year. The Wizards, I think, are done. I think they've hit their peak as a team. All right, and am I missing anything? The Bucks could take a step up, possibly. If their head coach is able to actually do some good coaching, which we haven't seen from the Bucks in a while. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it could just be a down year for the Raptors next year. I'm sure that they will. I'm sure that they will make the playoffs, but it's just a point where they could just be a team that gets bounced in the first round. All right, I really don't have too much faith in this team next season, so we'll see what ends up going down there. But like I said, they ended up hiring their new head coach, Nick Nurse. All right. You got Dwayne Casey over in Detroit. And like I said, I'm not sure that the Raptors ended up taking or hiring a coach better than Casey. I mean, you would have been better off just keeping him there. And maybe even trading a guy like DeRozan or even Lowry and trying to bring in some talent. So we'll see what ends up going down with the Raptors. Like I said, I mean, I don't have too much faith in them next year. and I'm not really sure what to expect of him. So we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be heading back over to the NFL. Josh Gordon saying that they got the best wide receivers in the league. So we'll talk about that. Stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC football, or actually this is a sports podcast. Got mixed up a bit. Yes, this is the GSMC sports podcast. Excuse me. All right, we're going to talk about Josh Gordon here, but of course, recapping what we've done so far. We talked about Andrew Luck, and we've talked about the Raptors hiring their new head coach. Do I like the move? I can't tell you. I don't know much about Nick Nurse. Okay. Do I think that the Raptors made a mistake by firing Dwayne Casey? Yes, I do. All right. So we'll see what ends up going down. But nonetheless, like I said, now I'm moving over to the NFL. Josh Gordon. All right. Obviously, receiver with all the talent in the world. Okay. And it's seemingly, well, it seems like he's got his head on straight now. Okay, seems like football is the most important thing to him, and it seems he'll be in the league for years to come at least. All right, he says that the Browns have the best wide receivers in the league, at least the best wide receiver corps. Okay, that's not necessarily a hot take. Okay. I'd say that they're up there. I mean, because if you think about it, and you know what? I feel like people have forgotten about Josh Gordon as far as what he's done. I mean, before he got suspended and all. All right, so let's take a look at Josh Gordon's past stats and see exactly what the guy has done. Came into the league back in 2012. That year, he played 16 games, only started 13. 50 receptions, 805 yards, 5 touchdowns, okay? The next year, he's an All-Pro and a Pro Bowler in 2013. All right? He catches 87 passes. Look at 87 passes, has over 1,600 yards and 9 touchdowns. Obviously, that's pretty good, wouldn't you say? 2014 only plays 5 games, 24 receptions, 300 yards, no touchdowns. 2015 gets suspended. 2016 suspended still. 2017 he comes back, catches 18 passes in 5 games. Let's see, 335 yards, 1 touchdown. All right. Josh Gordon, when he's out there, is a top 5 receiver. Okay, he's got that kind of talent. And looking at the other receivers on the Browns, okay, Corey Coleman, who will be on the opposite side, on the other side of Josh Gordon, I think is a very formidable number 2 receiver. He's not great or anything like that, but I feel that for the role he plays, he does well. Okay, and then looking over at the slot, I'd say that the Browns have the best slot receiver in the game, and probably a top 10 receiver at that, okay, in Jarvis Landry. He's about the 10-9 range right there, 8 maybe around there. But nonetheless, I'd say he's a top 10 receiver. All right. That's pretty solid, isn't it? And the Browns have been very underestimated, I think, this offseason. And like I say, I think it's just it's the Browns type of mentality with people who talk about them to where they're not really giving them a shot. And I'm not saying they're going to be Super Bowl champs or anything like that, but they will be a lot better compared to last year. And they could be a team who possibly fights for a playoff spot as far as the wild card. As far as the division goes, they got no shot whatsoever. No shot at all. Okay. But like I said, I do think that Gordon might be right on this one. And let's take a look at the other teams and see maybe who's got the best wide receiver corps in the league. All right, Dallas, I think, has one of the worst. New York, Philly, it's good, but not as good as Cleveland's, I'd say. Washington's, nope. Chicago's, nope. Detroit's, it's close, but I'd still say I'd take Gordon, Landry, and Coleman over Jones, Tate, and Galladay. Green Bay, no. Minnesota, I do like Thielen and Diggs. I think I like the Browns better. NFC South, the Falcons, besides Julio, you got a Ricky and Calvin Ridley. No. Carolina, definitely not. Saints, you got Michael Thomas, but other than that, no one else really. Tampa Bay, Deshaun Jackson, Mike Evans, no. NFC West, you got the Cardinals, nah. Rams, I'd say that the Browns are still better. It's definitely better than the 49ers, definitely better than the Seahawks. Heading over to the AFC East, Bills don't have any receivers who are solid. Miami's got some solid receivers there, but it's not. They don't get the star power as the Browns. New England, no. New York, no. Browns might actually have the best wide receiver corps in the league. All right. Baltimore hasn't had solid receivers in years. Cincinnati, not as good. Like I said, we already talked about Cleveland. Pittsburgh might. All right, I do like Juju Smith-Schuster. Obviously, Antonio Brown, I think, is the best receiver in the league. So Pittsburgh might top him there. Houston, I wouldn't say so. Will Fuller is a one-trick pony. DeAndre Hopkins is a great receiver. All right. Looking at Indianapolis, definitely not. Jacksonville, no. Tennessee, no. Denver, no. Kansas City, no. LA, the Chargers, no. Oakland, no. Browns might have the best wide receiver corps in the league. I think they do now. All right, it's either them or Pittsburgh, I feel. And like I said, you got the best slot receiver in the league. You got a guy in Josh Gordon who, when he's out there, got his head on straight, is a top 5 receiver. All right, I don't think there's no denying that. And like I said, you got a guy in Corey Coleman who I think is a pretty decent receiver there at the number 2 spot. All right, so I think it is pretty plausible to say that, yeah, the Browns do have the best, arguably the best wide receiver corps in the league. All right. Gordon also said that these are the best quarterbacks that he's seen over in Cleveland. Yeah, that's definitely a fact. Okay. I mean, Gordon was catching passes from Whedon, Jason Campbell. Since then, we've seen, who else have we seen since then? Johnny Manziel, Cody Kessler, Kevin Hogan, Deshaun Kaiser, who I think is who could be a decent quarterback. I just think that the Browns put him in a spot where he couldn't succeed. I think Kaiser was a guy who needed to sit maybe a year or two before and develop before he was ready to start. Let's see, am I missing anyone else? I don't think so. All right. So, yeah, I'd say that Tyrod Taylor and Baker Mayfield are already better than what they've had the last, 5 years? 6 years, I'd say. All right. And like I said, don't sleep on the Browns too much. They do have talent. This isn't the Browns we've all known and loved to laugh at. Okay? This Browns team has a lot of firepower on offense. And I don't think people are realizing that. Like I said, you got probably arguably the best wide receiver corps in the league. You got a tight end in David Njoku. Obviously, if you like him, you're more so rooting for his upside because he had a rookie year last year and showed flashes. So we don't really know exactly how good he's gonna be, but according just looking at the flashes and his upside and stuff, he should be decent, very good at least. Okay, you got a guy Tyrod Taylor who took a Bills team to the playoffs for the first time in 21 years. I don't understand why that team never appreciated him. All right, but I mean, it's Buffalo, so what do you expect? And then the Browns got a very young defense, but they got a defense who I think has talent and just needs time to develop. Okay? They're kind of like the 49ers. I think the 49ers do have a better defense than the Browns, but it's more so like I said with the 49ers. They got a lot of young guys that they need to just a little bit more develop. All right, I'd say that the Browns, 49ers, and Bears probably have the most exciting young defenses as far as future upside and all. All right? Like I said, I mean, I'm not expecting the Browns to go out and win the division or anything like that, but I don't think a wild card spot would be too out of the ordinary there. All right? Just given the fact, look at the roster. Okay, that's all you got to do. Just look at their roster. It's not a bad team on paper. It's just a point where they just need to play well as a team. They need good quarterback play. Okay, they haven't had a solid, good quarterback play in years, decades. All right, Bernie Kosar is probably the best quarterback they've had. Since him, not much. Okay, not much at all. But I'm very excited to see what the Browns can do this season. Like I said, got a lot of young players. Okay, Josh Gordon's back, going to be playing a full season. Excited to see what Jarvis Landry does. I think Tyrod Taylor's going to do well. The only person I'm kind of concerned about is Hugh Jackson. All right, I'm not really sure Hugh Jackson's a very good coach. He is a very good offensive coordinator, but as far as his coaching, head coaching stuff, it's not great. I mean, when you go 1-31 over your first two seasons, not normally a recipe for success there. But we'll see what he could do this season. So, like I said, we'll see. But nonetheless, Browns, arguably the best wide receiver corps in the league. So we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be talking about anything else going on in the world of sports. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. Got it right this time. So far, we've talked about Andrew Luck, Josh Gordon saying that the Browns got the best wide receiver corps, and also talked about the Toronto Raptors. All right. I saw today that Antonio Brown made some comments, okay? Pretty much talking about how the quote says, "Can't go nowhere and work out by myself. Fans come meet me at the field. I can't do nothing normal. You guys talking about the media. You guys write about me every day. My mom and kids see it, so we have to deal with these type of things. I started to think to myself, am I really free? I can't really express myself in this game. I can't really tell you how I feel." And talks about how they put pressure on him, or they make the pressure for him to put on himself. I get it, but that's the life you live when you're one of the best players in the NFL. Okay? You can't have it both ways. I'm sorry. I'm always for the players and all that, but nonetheless, it's something as far as this, where the media is just doing their job. I mean, what do you expect? You play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay? A very historic, great franchise who's won many Super Bowl. All right? And you don't like the pressure? I mean, come on now. You can't, like I said, you just can't have it both ways there. All right? And I think that Antonio Brown here just needs to realize that, or you just go and you retire. Okay. I mean, you play for a team that's won 6 Super Bowls. Then you play on a team who should be contending for a Super Bowl. What do you expect the media to do? Just not talk about one of the better teams in the AFC? I mean, that makes no sense to me. The players got this thing with the media where they want it to be a certain way, but it can't be that way because it's not possible. All right? The media's just doing their job as far as putting the pressure on the Steelers and all that and hyping them up. All right? And like I said, if Antonio Brown didn't like it, he could just retire. But nonetheless, I mean, it was something, I think, at least a little silly to see. All right? Either he just doesn't get it or he's pouting. Okay? And speaking of receivers, we got Julio Jones, who's holding out. And I can see why. Julio Jones is making $14 million a year on average. Okay? There's about 5 other players making more than that. I believe guys like Antonio Brown, Jarvis Landry, DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green. Who else am I missing? I think there's a couple of other players, but nonetheless, I mean, you do get it. And I'm all for players getting paid and all, trying to get better contracts. But there's a point where he has no leverage here. Okay? No leverage whatsoever. He's still under contract until 2022, I believe. Maybe until 2021. Let me double check. And yeah, let's look at who's making more than him on average. Okay. Mike Evans, Hopkins, Landry. Okay. Antonio Brown, AJ Green, Sammy Watkins. And I think that's pretty much it right there. As far as total guarantee, Evans is making 55, Hopkins is making 49, Landry's making 47, Julio's making 47. Yeah, so as far as guaranteed money, I mean, let me see. How did Antonio Brown only get 19 mil guaranteed? That makes no sense to me. All right, but nonetheless, yeah, as far as guaranteed money, I mean, Julio's 4th right there. He's tied with Jarvis Landry for 3rd. Tied with Jarvis Landry for 3rd as far as guaranteed money. All right, but of course, like I said, let's see, he's under contract till 2020, actually. All right, signed his extension back in 2015. I mean, he really has no leverage for a new contract up until next year, I'd say. Okay, or even maybe 2020. I mean, because 2019, what are you going to do? Sit out? You're going to lose money there. 2020 is the year that he should hold out. And if I'm the Falcons, I'm not budging. Like I said, I'm all for the players always getting paid and stuff, but you got to think of it also from a front office standpoint. Yeah, I'm not paying Julio till 2020 comes. 2020 when he's going to be a unrestricted free agent. He'll be 32 at that time too, so I don't know. It's going to be tough for him to get a new deal. There's no real leverage with him. I mean, because there's no way he's going to hold out and just not play the season. Whereas you got a guy who, like Odell Beckham Jr., who could just do that. Okay? Earl Thomas could do that. Because they're all on the last part of their deal, last year of their deals. All right? So I understand where Julio's coming from, but I don't think he's got much of a case here. All right? At least according to me. All right? So we'll see what ends up coming about that. I mean, we got a lot of players holding out. Aaron Donald, I believe that David Johnson might have held out. I have to double check on that. Actually, yeah, let's look at David Johnson, see if he is holding out right now. Yep. David Johnson is skipping this week's mandatory minicamp for the Cardinals. So, yeah, he's definitely going to be looking for a new deal. He's in the last year of his deal, too. So, we'll see exactly if the Cardinals end up paying him. And if I'm the Cardinals, I think you got to. I mean, yeah, he did suffer a season-ending injury last year, but that was a hand injury. So, I don't think that there's really cause for concern there. Okay. Now, let's head over to the NBA. All right. Yesterday, I believe we talked about LeBron James and the whole Celtics thing not being as crazy as it sounds, but you got Gary Payton saying that LeBron James' son, LeBron James Jr., is committed to play high school ball in LA. Okay, and I believe Kenyon Martin's son plays there. And someone else's kid plays there too. I know it's Kenyon Martin's for sure. Let me see. I don't know, Gary. Is it Gary Payton? Does his kid play there? Let's see. And Scottie Pippen's son. That's the other one. Scottie Pippen's son also plays at the same high school that supposedly LeBron James Jr.'s kid is, or LeBron James's kid is committed to play. And you got to think that means LeBron most likely will end up in LA. Okay? And that's a point where, I mean, LeBron could make plenty of money there. Could become the billionaire that he wants to be there. Okay? And, I don't know, let's talk about it. He take LA from Kobe? Could he? I really hope LeBron goes to LA now, just to see that. I want to see how the Kobe fans will deal with LeBron being there. Because they have argued for years. Okay? For a decade. Or more. No, for a decade, I'd say, because LeBron hasn't always been better than Kobe. But yeah, they've argued for a decade how Kobe's better than LeBron. They would never want LeBron to come play for the Lakers and stuff. And now it might happen. I think it actually will, just given the fact that if it's what Gary Payton is saying is true, that LeBron's kid is going to be playing high school ball over there. Yeah, I think LeBron's going to end up in LA. Okay? And like I said, I'm just really looking forward to seeing how the Lakers fans pretty much embrace him there. Because fact of the matter is, LeBron is better than Kobe, and he's been better than Kobe for probably the better part of the last 6 years. Okay? Sorry, but it's the truth. And now it's just a point where you want to take Magic Johnson as far as being the best player in the world, that's fine. But Lakerland has always belonged to Kobe, and there's a point where LeBron's better than Kobe, and Lakerland might belong to LeBron if he wins him a couple of championships. All right, but we could see a thing where, I mean, you got the Golden State Warriors fans. All right, we all know that if it came down to it, they'd show their loyalty to Steph Curry over KD. But of course, those guys are playing on the same team and stuff. Kobe's already retired. Maybe the Lakers fans forget about him. Who knows? All right. Oh, but really, I really do think now that LeBron's kid is committed to play high school ball in LA, according to Gary Payton, that LeBron most likely will end up in LA. And I think Vegas released the newest odds as far as where LeBron could end up. Let me see if I can find those odds too. All right. Let me see, yeah. So you got it where the Lakers are the favorites right now, then Philly at second, Houston third, Cleveland in fourth, Boston fifth, San Antonio sixth, the Clippers in seventh, Warriors eighth, Miami in ninth. I think that's just about right. Okay, I'd say that the Lakers, Sixers, and Rockets have always been the teams where they've been the ones who have been most connected as far as where LeBron can end up. Then you got the Cavs in fourth. I don't see LeBron ending up back in Cleveland unless they get like a superstar, like a Kawhi Leonard type of superstar there. So we'll see what ends up going down there. But like I said, Gary Payton said that LeBron's kid's going to be playing high school ball in LA. So I mean, that might just be it right there. LeBron could just be ending up in LA. And you're not going to see any media confirm this or whatnot because you still got to keep the suspicion of where he could end up. Okay, this isn't going to be confirmed till later. So we'll see what ends up happening. But nonetheless, we're going to wrap it up here. Today we talked to Andrew Luck, talked about the Browns wide receiver corps, the Raptors, and let's see, we talked about LeBron. What else did we talk about today? Oh yeah, we talked about Julio Jones holding out. So thanks for listening to the GSMC Sports Podcast. As always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. I will be back tomorrow, so I will talk to you guys later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.